Hello, everyone. I'm Gretchen from the Reference Desk at Shaker Public Library. Today, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite Jane Austen retellings. That is, books written by modern authors who've done creative things with Austen's stories and characters. Whether or not you like Jane Austen, I think you'll have fun escaping with these, and all are available digitally through our e-catalog. The first book is The Family Fortune by Laurie Horowitz, which is a modern retelling of Austen's novel Persuasion. You don't have to have read Persuasion to appreciate this finely crafted novel. Laurie Horowitz, by the way, runs a writer's lab in California, and like Jane Austen herself, is a bit of a social critic. Anyway, the story takes place in an upscale neighborhood in modern-day Boston, and the leading character, Jane Fortune, narrates. Like Persuasion's Anne Elliot, she makes herself useful. In this case, our heroine runs the Fortune Family Foundation, which produces a much-respected literary journal and provides yearly fellowships to aspiring authors, something which Jane Austen herself would have appreciated. But this Jane is not happy. Indeed, in the first paragraph, she tells us she lives under the cloud of always being called misfortune. While born to a moneyed life of privilege, everything changes abruptly when her idle family's spendthrift ways leave them all in financial duress. I think you'll enjoy, as I did, reading how Jane copes with her shallow family members, the many flawed characters they attract, financial challenges, the search for the latest fellowship winner, and the rediscovery of her long-lost love, not to mention her own sense of agency and self-worth. You can find The Family Fortune in our e-catalog on Overdrive, Hoopla, and available on Kindle. Ever tried to imagine what the lives of your favorite authors were like and what you don't know about them? Introducing Stephanie Barron and her Jane and the series, where she presents the lost diaries of Jane Austen across a series of 13 books and counting. But this isn't just tea in the drawing room. Instead, Barron recasts Jane as an amateur sleuth, working through mysteries, murder, and mayhem in Regency-era England in partnership with a mysterious gentleman rogue. You would think that would come across as far-fetched, but Barron relies heavily on Jane Austen's actual letters and historical events to frame each book in place and time, making the story feel believable in its historical setting. Even better, the voice she gives Jane is witty, discerning, and keen, in a way that one could just imagine the real Jane being. Somehow, Barron's delightful books succeed wildly across 3 genres, appealing to mystery fans, those who appreciate meticulously researched historical fiction, and those who enjoy romance. Even better, you don't need to read them in order. Though if you did want to start with the first, it's called Jane and the Unpleasantness at Scargrave Manor. Oh, pardon me. What was that, Jane? Yes, I agree. That dress is entirely too long for exploring Abbey ruins. In any case, you can find most of this delightful series in our e-catalog on Hoopla or available for Kindle. The third book I want to tell you about is Longbourn by British author Jo Baker. While many characters in Jane Austen's novel Pride and Prejudice have launched spin-offs based on minor characters, none that I know of have looked at things solely from the servant's perspective. In this story, Jo Baker flips the roles of the main characters to the background while bringing forward the story of the servants who take center stage. I should note that you do not need to have read Pride and Prejudice to follow this, as it stands on its own. Longbourn tells the story of the infinitely patient Mrs. Hill, housekeeper for the Bennet family, as well as the story of one of the young ladies' maids whom we get to know as Sarah. I kind of think this is Sarah right here. Anyway, the story begins with Sarah doing the laundry of her mistress, Elizabeth Bennet, and remarking that if Elizabeth realized how much work it was to remove stains, she might try a little harder to keep her clothes clean. Sarah has not led the life of leisure of most of Austen's characters. Born to a tradesman's family in the local village, she was orphaned young, sent to the workhouse until she was old enough to go into service with the Bennet family. Fortunately, Mrs. Hill takes her under her wing, trying to stand in as mother as well as her boss, which is a tricky balance to say the least. Then one day, the Bennet family hires a new manservant, the mysterious James Smith, whose past is much more complicated than most everyone realizes. I appreciated this story because it helped me see beyond the Regency era that Jane Austen presents in her novels and into the mostly hidden lives of the people who did most of the work, both physical and emotional. Interestingly, Jo Baker was inspired to write this novel because of her own family's years in service. In doing so, she raises questions about class and privilege that Jane herself rarely did. Longbourn by Jo Baker is available on Overdrive and Kindle as an ebook, and also on Overdrive as an audiobook. Do you have some favorite author retellings, Jane Austen or otherwise? Send us your favorite titles at librarian@shakerlibrary.org. In the meantime, happy reading.